Hello everyone, and welcome to Autodrome St-Eustache for the third race of our Liqui Moly Pro Sport Bike National Championship. I'm your series announcer, Frank Wood. This National Championship race is brought to you by Dalton Timbus Insurance, Motovan, Honda, Magneti Marelli offered by Mopar, and Dunlop.
Just about ready for our first National of 2017 here at a very, very tight bull ring, short lap type of track, Frank. A lot of pressure on the guys to get the tires hot, and on top of that, there's concerns about bad weather coming, so everybody wants to see this get going now.
Round 3 of the 2017 Liqui Moly Pro Sport Bike class riders are now on their warm-up lap. We see Bilge there on the number 4 machine as he goes by our camera. And our grid, Colin?
Yeah, I think it's interesting to note a couple of things here. McKay making, I believe, his first appearance at this track. He's been a standout in his rookie pro year. Lanny, again, his first time here at Autodrome St-Eustache, just northwest of Montreal. When we move up to the upper rows, we're going to see that Mitch Card, amazing effort in qualifying to grab the pole. Kazaz, our points leader, and these two are really strong rivals. Garvey, who returned to the series this year. Trombino, the warlord, showing very well. He didn't do round 1. He won round 2, and he's going to be a factor. Chris Brent, who had illness at the second round, looked great at the opener at Shannonville. Louis Rafa, who of course won here 2 years ago in the rain, he's a local, and Alex Coelho, who's on that borrowed Yamaha on the podium here last year and starting to show his old pace, getting comfortable on a new bike.
Great to see Trombino back on the circuit once more. We missed him at Shannonville, as you mentioned, and that's too bad because Trombino does well at Shannonville, but he certainly showed the boys a way around at Grand Bend, and again, great to have him here. He's lined up on the outside of the front row on the number 31 Honda, the White Gold Financial and ProStar sponsored machine.
And we have definitely the young guns versus Frank Trombino, round 2 of that particular battle. And 2 weeks ago, definitely Frank Trombino got the edge on the young guns.
Under starters orders now, Colin, we look to the rider's choice starting lights, and the eyes are fixed on that right now. Pupils starting to dilate just a bit as the pressure starts to build the starting line. The lights have gone off. Kaz is lifting the front wheel as he takes off. We're on board with Frank Trombino right now, following on Christopher Garvey and then Tommy Casas, and out front it is fast qualifier Mitch Card.
And on board through the S's gives you a sense of how hairy it is. Now looking back, and Kazaz is a eye full of Mitch Card, and what he can't let happen is for Card to get away. Of course, the rivalry anticipated between these two has certainly come to fruition. And look at Garvey, that Kawasaki has some serious performance.
Right up alongside Casas, and then all of a sudden Garvey goes on the brakes and Casas leaves the gas on. He stays with Card as they head onto the infield curvery right now.
And this is what everybody wants to see. These two guys going at full tilt. Trombino is in 4th and certainly part of the conversation. First time through the stock car oval, heading to the front straight. It's bumpy through here. Chassis has a real workout. We have 2 Yamahas from a Kawasaki and 2 Hondas, so good range of motorcycles at the front of our field as we're just kind of getting settled in after a lap here at Autodrome St-Eustache, heading for the carousel.
Take note of the wide line coming into turn 1 by Frank Trombino. Very different than the 3 young guns or the brats up front, if you will. Mitch Card leads Tommy Casas, and Casas merely a half a bike length behind right now as Christopher Garvey looks on from the Kawasaki. So we've got 2 Yamahas leading this one, the Kawasaki running in 3rd spot, and then we got Frank Trombino on that Honda running in 4th spot. We're on board now with Tommy Casas, and we have gone into the race lead on the number 46 bike. Mitch Card has been shunted back to 2nd spot.
Don't think Card was expecting that. Pretty bold at the end of the 2nd lap for Kazaz to make that move, and I think he is impatient. He's worried about the impending weather, wants to start leading right away here as we head into the S's for our 3rd lap, and we have a new leader, Kazaz, our points leader, and of course Card really can't let this race start unfolding in this manner. He needs to
Well, he needs to do exactly what he's doing. Card moves to the inside, tries to take the line away from Casas. Doesn't happen. Casas like a NHL goaltender during the playoffs. He's not letting anybody by him.
Yeah, nice try by Card, and Kazaz just committed to finishing that corner at his own speed. And here we are where the pass happened last time. You can see Card maybe looking to see if he can make that work, but the door was not open for the reverse move a lap later.
Well, Trombino might have pulled a disappearing move when we ran down to Grand Bend, but that is not the case here at Autodrome St-Eustache. Certainly he is part of the conversation, make no doubt about that. Take note also that Louis Raff's in this conversation as well, running back in 5th spot just now.
Yeah, I think everybody's trying to figure out what the pace is, and when you have the young guys at the front, it's really hard to tell. Are they going to be reasonable and see what the tires are capable of, or are they just going to put their heads down and hammer, and maybe you're going to be out a motorcycle by the end of the race? And of course, you look at those clouds, this is a threatening sky. The concern is the Card had a really good look at Garvey, and I don't know if that's a good idea.
Not a good idea at all. Don't look back, I think, are the simple explanations you would hear from a lot of the top pros. Tommy Casas leads them now on that number 46 Yamaha, and he seems to have a good pace here. But Card has already shown him a front wheel, and Christopher Garvey sitting back there in the cat's nest.
Well, Garvey's bike is built out of bits and pieces from the old factory Kawasaki program. It is a really impressive motorcycle, certainly in no way inferior to the motorcycles that are leading. If perhaps these two are a little more sorted out, Garvey's only been on that bike for 3 weeks. Remember, the National Series only started 5 weeks ago.
Don't you love it when you go on board with Card and then look right back at Card when you're on board with Casas? The onboard camera's doing a fabulous job for us here as Trombino stays in the front group, and Louis Raff is struggling a bit now back in 5th spot and finding himself on the wrong line coming out of that corner, Colin. He wasn't making advantage of that draft at all.
No, I think there's some risk of Rafa getting scrubbed off, and they have pulled away from the rest of the field really quickly, and Kazaz making a little bit of a mistake on the entrance there. That's going to be encouraging for Card, and hopefully he's focused completely in front, because that last lap glance back at Garvey only makes Garvey think that he's already in the head of the second place Yamaha rider.
Well, he should be. He started off this season at Shannonville, as you will well remember, with fast qualifier, and then ended up as sort of an innocent victim of a crash at Grand Bends. But Garvey's definitely got the speed. He hasn't lost a thing from the hiatus he was away from our sport.
No, and definitely that bike works well. It's an impressive package, and he seems to have gelled with it immediately. On board, looking for the lead.
Card has a look to the inside, and we look back now from Tommy Casas' Yamaha at Mitch Card, equally mounted on a Yamaha R6, and it looks like these the trio here are starting to get some distance and leave Trombino in the dust.
I don't know about that. Frank Trombino may have made a little mistake. It's very hard to run consistent laps here. We certainly have seen some little miscues, if you will, amongst the front runners, and of course one of the tricks at St-Eustache is if you make a little mistake, there we saw Card run pretty wide in the middle of the S's. So there you go, timing is really tough, and if you make the mistake, can you pick up the turn and not drop a lot of time? I wouldn't be surprised that Frank had a little error, and there you can see Garvey right where he needs to be to try and make that move for second.
Oh, Kaz is starting to jet away a bit here and get a little bit of distance indeed. What a run he had on that one, Colin.
And I think that's because of that Card thing, that little bit of time there, and that backed Garvey up slightly. And you know, if it happens in the right place, you can pounce and pass. If it happens in the wrong place, it backs everyone up. And look at here, Trombino has caught right back up again. Wow. But the problem is, you pointed out, Frank, these guys may not be able to stay with the leader if they keep going at it the way they are.
Well, keep an eye on Garvey too. I'm sure I saw his front wheel trying to creep away from him as he came into that infield portion.
Well, Garvey definitely isn't afraid to slide the motorcycle. It's fun to watch him ride that bike, and I think he's trying to size up Card. He's had a couple of pretty good looks in there. You can see Trombino, different line, and that's not unusual for him. And you know, Frank has been a front runner here for 17 years, I think, roughly, in the pro ranks. A lot of experience, a lot of mental stored information about this track, and he's raced some of the best, like Steve Crevier, around this track.
On board with Christopher Garvey now, as he is definitely on the hunt, and it looks like he might have a number for Mitch Card. They're barely a bike length apart, and Garvey looking to the inside, coming out onto the drag race front straightaway here, making their way in through turn one right now, and Garvey seems to be in a position to pounce.
And Trombino's right with them. They're about a second, just over a second behind our leader, and that's about as far as they can drift and still have a crack at winning this one. And at this point, Tommy in the lead looks like he's done. Look, just amazing watching Trombino use all the road, and I don't mean he's making a mistake. I mean, he has the confidence, and look at this.
Here comes Garvey. He is definitely on the move now. Heads up, comes into the infield portion once more. Not able to solve the problem in front of him, known as Mitch Card. But meanwhile, Mitch Card is looking ahead and seeing Tommy Casas starting to get very small.
And Trombino there on the brakes, coming into the final part of the track before we head on to this part of the oval here. Head down the front straight toward the S's. And, you know, Trombino made up a ton of time and then seemed to have lost it all in that little straightaway. And look at that, he's right back into this discussion.
Wow, just reels him right back in again.
Yeah, it's always fun to watch Trombino, and it's exciting to see him up at the front. Of course, he's significantly behind on the points because he missed the first round, but if he keeps riding like this, he's going to climb back into contention as the season continues.
Trombino coming really close to the green part at the edge of the racetrack in that long sweeping left-hander, the bowl as we refer to it, turn number 3 by number.
Into this dog leg in the middle of the stock car oval, then heading to this final very tricky section. A little bit of slick track, not much room to maneuver. There you can see Trombino taking a wide line. You nip back in here, go between the 2 lanes of the drag strip, and then you head down towards the S's past the old pit lane. So really not a moment to rest here. Obviously a place where it's good to be very young and very fit. Trombino may be very fit, but he's not very young at 44, but man, can he ride that Honda.
He came into this round with a sort of a quiet confidence about him. You know, I think he still had that inner fire, as I often refer to it, from his victory at Grand Bend. We're on board right now looking back at Christopher Garvey from Mitch Card's red Yamaha at the green Kawasaki of Christopher Garvey, and I keep waiting for Garvey to uncork when he looks like he's just getting ready to make a move, and yet seems to be somewhat reserved somehow.
And these same 4, give or take McKay, we're all mixing it up at Grand Bend. He's a little further back, not part of the conversation this weekend because he's new to this track, but we definitely have a group of people who are basically always riding with each other. They never have clear track. They never have a moment to themselves. At the moment, Tommy at the front has a little bit of room to maneuver, but almost always they've been on top of each other. Look at this from Trombino.
Right on Garvey's back wheel, and we get some excellent shot there, and then he loses somewhat like a bike and a half length coming out of turn number 3 on the back straightaway. Now Garvey is definitely got his head down, but likewise Trombino's like he's getting ready to pull the trigger here,
working the double draft, and that's going to be helping Frank. And I don't think Frank's concerned about experience or age. Oh, look at this move.
Indeed, he's gotten Garvey. I've been waiting for Garvey to make a move on Mitch Card, and it's Trombino, the warlord.
Let's see this in slow motion, and this is not a typical pass amongst front runners. Garvey looks pretty comfortable. He certainly hasn't left the door open, but Frank just rolls it in off the brakes nice and easy. It's not actually as scary a pass as you would think if you explained it to somebody, but now look at this. Trombino immediately sizing up our second place rider Card, who has been holding off Garvey easily.
They've scrubbed off Garvey. Garvey's well back now.
Garvey may be a little surprised about how this is unwinding. I imagine he's going to try and go with Frank, but Frank suddenly has picked up the pace markedly, and before he seemed content and maybe struggling, here we go.
He's on the move again. He moves on the inside of Mitch Card, and the warlord has taken another position. Card had to stand it up a bit there to let him through. He tries to get him back on the inside coming out. Not going to happen.
And we have traffic up in front, Frank, so they're trying to catch up through the lap traffic. And here, you look at this move. Frank has a brief look inside Mitch here. Picks up the normal line, but right here he commits to that same pass. This is suddenly his happy hunting ground. And to be honest with you, Card sort of shut the door. Frank has to be more aggressive, swings out wider, probably startles Card a little bit more. But look at this, we're filtering through traffic, and Card is trying to hang in with Frank, and Frank is bridging the gap to the leader. And we've got reports of a little bit of rain at this end of the track, which has to be, you know, really playing havoc in the minds of guys who are trying to get the most out of these Dunlop slicks.
Suddenly we have cause to mention Casas again, as he has definitely come into sight, both on our camera, and of course Frank Trombino has a good line on him as well, and he's had such success in the last 2 laps, reeling in Garvey, making a pass on him, and then making a bit of a move over pass on Mitch Card coming out onto the front straightaway. Now he has Casas within his sights, and it was but 5 laps ago I had written him off as not being part of this conversation.
Yeah, it's just amazing what Trombino's been able to do. He just seems to get suddenly very, very motivated, and we went on board with the drift camera with our third place bike Card and really had a look at what Trombino was. Look at how wide he is there, the confidence he has, and that's serious speed as he comes. He is hunting down our leader at this juncture. And
mere centimeters away from that white line at the edge of the racetrack, and Colin, that is not a place where there is any gription. Bit of a front wheel hop there by Trombino coming into that infield dogleg section.
And you can see that strange inside-outside line close to the rubber curbs that mark the apex of the final turn. And there you can see him well in that shot with our leader at this point. And of course, this is when you get the bit between your teeth, when you can see, regardless of your pit board, you are closing the distance corner by corner in the leader, nothing inspires you to try and commit to that next big move. And here we have a good look on board, and that is our first place bike just in the distance from Frank Trombino. Now we're looking back from the first place bike, and Frank is sucking up into the slipstream.
Meanwhile, rest assured that Tommy Casas is getting the pit signals when he comes down the front straightaway, and that should cause him to up his pace a bit. But Trombino, holy lord, he caught me off on that one. That was totally unexpected, and again, really wide on the exit of that corner.
And we got traffic there. That's going to be an issue.
Indeed it will be. So Casas will be the first one to come up on this traffic. That may give him a break. We'll see how that works out, because sometimes things don't quite turn out. That is Martin Cote, by the way, on the 217 machine, one of the local riders here. We are on board with, I think that was Christopher Garvey.
I think that might have been Trombino, but the point is that Frank did get held up a bit, but here he is at the carousel. He's just made up a ton of time again, but he's got a lap and a half to go. He's going to have to figure out something, but Casas is in a bad spot here. He's leading the championship. He wants to win this race. He cannot afford to get mixed up in a mess with Frank or make a mistake battling with Frank, and yet you want those points. You want to prove that you can control the series. He's looking for his second career win. Of course, Frank has won in this series. Card has won in this series. A lot of pressure on our young leader, just turned 18.
I was going to ask, do you think Casas has of the maturity to hold back and do a championship run? Final lap, we're going to find out very shortly here. Here we have one of the greatest riders in Canadian Superbike and sport bike history, namely Frank Trombino, with one of the most promising youngsters that this country has produced in quite some time. Out of the bowl of turn number 3, and they are merely one bike length apart. Here now is Trombino, and we're on board with him right now, looking at the back end of Tommy Casas' Yamaha. Now looking back at the Honda of Frank Trombino, and Trombino is on the move. He moves to the outside coming into the Dog's Lake, and he was too wide there. Too wide coming in. That could have made all the difference. A different line coming into that infield section, Colin, could have made all the difference. There's Trombino way wide in the final corner. Down the front straightaway they go. The checkered flag is out, and Tommy Casas has scored his second national championship win of the year, of 3 races, 2 wins in the Liqui Moly Pro Sport Bike National Championship final.
Well, that was a big last lap, and Frank really tried. He looked to make that move, crossing the stock car oval, lots of speed there, and he just was a little bit hot and couldn't make the bike settle down. So that's an honest second. Great charge from Trombino. Terrific pressure on our leader, and look at that, he's now 2 for 3, and those are the kind of races where you stamp with authority your ability to take potentially a championship.
That, my friend, was a smart ride by Tommy Casas.
Well, it's smart, and it's a winning ride, and it proves he's willing to do what it takes, and it could be important. Card, of course, in third. He's not going to be satisfied with that, but he's been on the podium every time. McKay, a decent 6th and well in the points. Brett getting better as a rookie pro. Stacy Nesbitt in 8th from Bulger, who of course had most of his motorcycles and equipment stolen during this week, and Coelho on that Yamaha in 10th.
Yeah, it was different, that's for sure. Coming down the back straightaway and seeing rain coming down those your visor and the windscreen, it was something else, and you knew you just had to take it kind of easy. But then Frank blew by me, and he was wide open still, and I couldn't believe it, and I just tried to kept pace, but he was gone, and he was trying to catch Casas, and he's trying to everything he possibly could. It was an awesome race to watch from behind.
Over to the other side, an important points grab. Your wallet's a little bit thicker, and you had a whole lot of fun, didn't you?
Yeah, it was a good time. I got to admit, my ProStar Honda worked well. The Dunlop tires hooked up well, and had to put my head down. I seen everyone taking off. Mitch and Garvey were in front, and I just had to keep my head down. I didn't think I was going to catch up to Cassie, but it ended up working out. I had my head down, but I mean, there wasn't enough laps there, and I wanted to play it safe and no bombs, eye moves or anything, and we ended up in second, so hats off to the champ, and good race.
And Tommy Casas, your second win in Liqui Moly Pro Sport Bike Racing for 2017. And on the same day that Valentino Rossi won at Assen, you have won here in Canada.
Yeah, that's for sure a sweet one to get, you know. The both 46s, obviously him being the one to start off the number, but no, it's nice to get another win, and hopefully we can keep this momentum going. The race ended up being right to the line, you know. I Frank kept me honest, and he was really pushing. I was bottoming out on suspension, and I found my limit, and I couldn't have pushed that much more, or else I would have been on the ground. But you know, even with the rain coming down, I was a little precautioned after a few laps of seeing it, but Frank kept that throttle on, and he caught up quick. But you know, we managed to get away with the win, and hopefully we can just carry that momentum going and keep the points lead, which is obviously what we're looking for. But congrats to these guys, they rode an awesome race.
Ladies and gentlemen, your podium from Liqui Moly Pro Sport Bike National Championship Round 3. Mitch Card in 3rd place on Yamaha, Frank Trombino in 2nd spot on the Honda, and on top of the box for the 2nd time this season, Tommy Casas.
Looking at our point standings after 3 of 7 races with a doubleheader coming at Shubenacadie next month. Casas is not well ahead, but he's got a good lead after 3. Card needs to hang in there. Trombino making a run after missing the 1st round. Garvey showing well after the crash in the 2nd round. Rafa, Coelho, Brent, McKay, Errett, and Bilge, rookie pro, in 10th overall in the point standings with 4 races left to run. Next up is Atlantic Motorsport Park in Nova Scotia, where we hope that Jacob Shaw O'Leary will return for his rookie pro season at his home track after injuring his hand at our previous round at Grand Bend. We look forward to seeing you all. Thanks for watching.